The wind howled through the dense alien forest, a sharp, otherworldly sound that echoed off the towering mushroom-like trees. Amidst the rustling leaves and strange, glowing flora, a human stood still, frozen in place. His name was John, and he had no idea why he was here. One moment, he was working in his lab on a mundane task. The next, he was transported to this strange world, far beyond the reach of his understanding. His heartbeat quickened as the air around him grew colder. Sweat trickled down his brow despite the chill. He turned slowly, glancing around the unfamiliar landscape. Massive, twisted trees loomed over him, their roots reaching out like fingers. The ground underfoot soft and alien, unlike anything he had ever walked on. The silence was suffocating, broken only by his breath and the occasional distant murmur of something unearthly. He had no clue how he got here or why, but something told him this place was far from ordinary. And then he saw her. She stood in front of him, barely more than a silhouette at first, the glow of the trees casting a soft light on her form. She was beautiful, in a way that defied words. Her skin was an iridescent shade of blue, like the sky at twilight, and her eyes, those eyes, were so bright they seemed to shine like stars. Her face, though pale and otherworldly, was undeniably human in its emotions, and she regarded him with a look that was at once cold and intense. John's body stiffened, but his mind raced. He had heard stories about alien encounters, legends, whispers. But this was real. The way she stood there, as if waiting for something, or someone. Her posture, serene yet imposing, was like nothing he had ever witnessed. She spoke. Her voice was a soft whisper, yet it carried through the air with force. "Don't look at me, human." Her words struck him like a punch to the gut. There was power in them, an unspoken command, one that seemed to reverberate through the very air around them. But curiosity burned through him. Why? What was it about her that made him feel as if he should heed her warning? The urge to look into her eyes, those glowing eyes, became irresistible. He couldn't help it. His gaze shifted toward her, slowly at first, then more steadily as if something was pulling him in, like gravity itself had changed. And when his eyes met hers, everything around him seemed to freeze. The world around him stopped. The leaves no longer swayed in the wind. The distant murmurs of the alien world fell silent, and even the heartbeat in his chest stilled. Time itself seemed to grind to a halt. The only thing that existed in that moment was the alien girl and her eyes, bright, luminous, almost blinding in their intensity. Her expression softened ever so slightly, though her eyes remained as intense as ever. "You shouldn't have looked," she whispered, her voice now tinged with a touch of sadness. But now, it's too late. John couldn't move. His body was like stone, as if trapped in a moment that stretched on forever. He tried to speak, but the words refused to leave his mouth. His mind was clouded, confused. What had just happened? Why couldn't he move? Why did it feel like the world was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen? And then, with a soft sigh, the alien girl stepped closer. Every movement she made was graceful, deliberate, as if each step was a part of some larger design. She raised her hand slowly, her fingers delicate, yet impossibly strong, and brushed them across his cheek, like a feather touching skin. "You think you understand," she said softly. "But you don't." John's mind raced as the world around him remained suspended, frozen in place by her gaze. He felt the weight of her words, the gravity of them pressing down on him like an invisible force. What did she mean? What was happening? The questions flooded his thoughts, but no answers came. Only silence, only the deep, eternal stillness of the moment. For what felt like hours, he stood there, paralyzed, his thoughts swirling like a storm inside his mind. And yet, despite the chaos within, there was an undeniable calmness that washed over him, a strange peace that came from being in the presence of something so ancient, so powerful, that it made his own existence seem insignificant in comparison. But what was she? Who was she? He couldn't help but wonder if he had made a mistake. Was it a curse to have looked at her? Or was it fate, something inevitable, as though he was always meant to be here in this strange place with her? "Do you regret it?" she asked, her voice a mere breath against the air. John's lips trembled, his heart thundering in his chest, but still he couldn't answer. "What would you do if this happened to you? Tell me below." John's thoughts were a tangled mess, each one vying for attention, but no answers came. He was trapped in that moment, a moment that stretched across infinity, with only the alien girl and her glowing eyes keeping him from losing his grip on reality. The air was thick, like a waiting silence before a storm, and though every fiber of his being screamed for escape, he remained rooted in place, unable to break free from the mesmerizing pull of her gaze. She didn't move. Her stillness was unnerving. The brush of her fingers against his cheek lingered like an electric current, but the real force, the true power, was in her eyes. They weren't just glowing, they were alive. He could feel the pulse of energy radiating from them, wrapping around him, consuming him. Her presence was overwhelming, a constant pressure on his mind. And yet, beneath it all, there was an undeniable sense of wonder. "Do you understand now?" she asked, her voice a delicate whisper in the silence. There was a quiet intensity in her tone, an unspoken expectation. Her eyes bore into him like a predator, waiting for a response. John wanted to answer. He wanted to scream, to shout, to ask her why he was here, why she was doing this to him. But no words came. His mouth was dry, his body heavy, as if the weight of the moment had crushed his ability to act. He tried to speak, to form a coherent thought, but it was as though his mind was caught in an endless loop, replaying the same unanswered question over and over again. The alien girl's expression softened, just slightly. She stepped back, breaking the spell she had cast over him, but her eyes, those eyes, remained fixed on him, never wavering. "There is a reason you are here," she continued, her voice now a little more soothing, yet still full of mystery. "A reason you've crossed the boundaries of time and space to find me." John's mind reeled. Boundaries of time and space. Was she talking about the strange way he had ended up here, the sudden shift from his lab to this alien world? He remembered the moment everything had changed. The lab, the glowing light that had enveloped him, and then nothing but this vast alien world. He hadn't been prepared for any of this. He hadn't even believed in the possibility of alien life until now. "Why me?" he finally managed to croak, his voice rough, the words feeling foreign on his tongue. He was trembling, but not just from fear. There was something else, something he couldn't quite place. The alien girl smiled, a subtle curl of her lips. It was a soft expression, almost human in its warmth, but there was a hidden depth in her eyes. "You are not the first," she said. "Many have come before you, drawn by the same force. But you—" She paused, her gaze sharp and piercing, as if she were seeing into the very core of his being. "You are different." John's heart raced. He felt a strange sense of recognition, as if he had known this moment was coming, as if his very existence had been leading him to this point. But the question still lingered. What was she? What was he to her? "Am I trapped?" he asked, his voice shaking as he tried to make sense of his situation. The alien girl tilted her head slightly, her glowing eyes narrowing. "Trapped? No, not trapped." She moved closer again, her presence so close now that he could feel the heat emanating from her. "You are here because you were chosen." Chosen? The word echoed in his mind like a thunderclap. His pulse quickened as the weight of her statement settled over him. Chosen for what? What did she want with him? She raised her hand again, this time gently cupping his cheek. Her touch was soothing, almost hypnotic. "There is a war," she whispered, her voice low and filled with ancient sorrow. "A war you cannot see, a battle beyond your comprehension. And it is coming to you, to your world." John's mind reeled. A war? A battle beyond comprehension? He couldn't understand. He had no knowledge of any war, no knowledge of any enemy, beyond the confines of Earth's problems. But the certainty in her voice made him hesitate. "How can I help?" he asked, his voice desperate. He didn't understand, but somehow deep within he knew that he had to be a part of whatever this was. It was as if his destiny had already been written, and he had no choice but to follow the path laid before him. The alien girl's eyes softened. She stepped back, and for the first time since he'd arrived, John felt a strange sensation. Time, though still slow and heavy, began to move again. The stillness broke, but the tension remained. "You will help," she said softly. "But first, you must understand what is at stake. You must see what you are about to face. What humanity will face." Her eyes flared with energy as she stepped back, her fingers raised in a silent command. The world around them shimmered, like a veil lifting from reality. The forest, the glowing trees, the sky, all of it began to dissolve, replaced by an image that filled John's mind with terrifying clarity. He saw destruction, cities falling, people screaming, buildings crumbling to dust. He saw alien ships descending upon Earth, their sleek metallic forms towering over the planet. But it wasn't just the destruction that struck him. It was the faces of those involved. Human faces, contorted in fear and defiance, as they fought against an enemy they didn't understand. He saw himself. In the midst of the chaos, John stood with the alien girl at his side, her glowing eyes fierce, guiding him through the nightmare. He saw humanity's last stand, a desperate fight for survival, and in that moment, he knew the truth. He was the key. The vision faded, leaving him breathless and overwhelmed. He staggered back, trying to make sense of the chaos in his mind. What was that?" he whispered, his voice barely audible. The alien girl was silent, watching him with those knowing eyes. Her gaze never left him. "You are not ready, John," she said softly. "But you will be. You must be." And with that, the world around them snapped back into focus, leaving John standing in the alien forest once more. The moment had passed, but the question remained. What do you do when the fate of your world rests in your hands? The forest around John seemed so normal now, yet it was anything but. The weight of the vision still pressed on him like a dark cloud. He had seen destruction, the fall of cities, the death of countless lives, and yet it wasn't a nightmare. It was a warning. He was part of something far larger than himself, far more dangerous than anything he had ever imagined. "Did you see it?" the alien girl asked softly, her voice pulling him from his racing thoughts. John nodded slowly, unable to speak at first. He could still see the image, the burning cities, the helpless faces, and the overwhelming sense of loss. His stomach twisted with fear. What happens next? The question hung in the air, but he knew it wasn't really meant for her. It was for himself. He needed answers, but he was terrified of them. The alien girl's gaze never faltered. She stepped closer, her eyes glowing softly in the dim light. "You saw the future," she said, her voice low. "But the future is not set in stone. You, John, can change it, if you choose to." Her words hung in the air like a challenge, and for a moment John couldn't breathe. Was it possible? Could he really alter the future? Could he stop the war, the destruction? But the more he thought about it, the more he realized he had no choice. This wasn't just a chance to save humanity. It was his responsibility. The weight of that knowledge crushed him, and he stumbled backward, his head spinning. "What do I do?" he asked, his voice strained. "How do I stop all of this?" The alien girl's expression softened, and she placed her hand gently on his arm. Her touch was calming, but there was a quiet power in it, a force that seemed to draw strength from the earth itself. The first step is understanding your enemy. To fight, you must know what you're up against. John felt a sharp pang of fear in his chest. He had seen the alien ships, their deadly power, and their relentless advance. But he had also seen humanity, desperate but defiant. He had seen his own face among the chaos. He wasn't ready for any of this. He wasn't a soldier or a leader. He was just a man, a scientist, thrown into a war he didn't understand. "You can do this, John," the alien girl said, as if reading his mind. "You are not alone in this fight. I will be with you." Her words gave him a sense of calm, but they didn't ease his anxiety. The image she had shown him, the destruction, the burning cities, the last-ditch defense, was etched in his mind like a scar, and he couldn't shake the thought of it. Was this his destiny? To lead humanity against an unstoppable force? "Don't know if I'm the right person for this," John whispered, the doubt creeping in again. I'm just a scientist. I'm not a warrior. I don't even know where to begin." The alien girl smiled softly, her eyes warm and understanding. "None of us are born knowing our purpose. We are shaped by the choices we make. And right now, you have a choice." A heavy silence followed her words. John felt the weight of that choice pressing down on him. He didn't have answers. He didn't have a plan. But he knew one thing. The world was in danger. His world, the world he had once known, was facing a threat it couldn't comprehend. And somehow, he was connected to it. Somehow, he was meant to be here. "What happens if I fail?" John asked, his voice barely a whisper. The alien girl's eyes darkened, her expression growing serious. "Failure is not an option," she said, her voice carrying a quiet, deadly finality. "The consequences of failure are unimaginable. You saw what awaits humanity. You saw what happens if we don't act." John's heart thudded painfully in his chest. He remembered the vision, the faces, the cries for help, the endless war. He had never felt so powerless in his life. But then, he thought of the moment before, the moment when he looked into her eyes. He had felt a spark, a connection, like they were tied together by something ancient, something far beyond his understanding. He wasn't the only one in this fight. He wasn't alone. "You're right," he said, his voice firming up as the realization set in. "I can't let this happen." The alien girl nodded, her eyes softening just a touch. "The war is coming. The Zal'kar fleet is preparing to invade your world. They are relentless, and they will stop at nothing to destroy what they do not understand. But you can change the tide. You can tip the balance." John's mind was spinning, but a strange calm washed over him. He didn't have all the answers. Hell, he didn't even know what the first step was. But he had to try. He couldn't let humanity fall without a fight. "How?" he asked, his voice steady now, as if something had shifted inside him. "How do I stop them?" The alien girl stepped back, her hand falling to her side. "You will need to gather allies," she said. "You will need to unite the humans, the ones who will stand with you. Together, you will have the strength to face the Zal'kar. But you must act quickly. Time is not on your side." John nodded, feeling a sense of purpose begin to solidify within him. The task ahead would not be easy. It would not be quick. But he had no choice. He had to fight for his world, for the people he loved, for the future of humanity. The alien girl's eyes glowed brightly once again, her expression resolute. Remember, John, the fate of your world lies in your hands. It is your choice to make. He turned toward the horizon, where the sky was beginning to darken with an unsettling energy. The fight was coming, and he could feel the weight of it on his shoulders. But one thing was certain, he would not face it alone. The alien girl stood beside him, her glowing presence like a beacon of hope in the vast, darkening world. John had never felt more alone and more connected at the same time. He was no longer just a man caught in a strange place, no longer just a scientist lost in a foreign land. He was something more. He was a leader, a protector, someone who, for reasons beyond comprehension, had been chosen to fight for the future of humanity. The alien girl's words echoed in his mind, the weight of them heavy on his heart. The Zal'kar are coming. The invasion is inevitable. But you can stop them. John didn't understand everything. He didn't need to. He knew the stakes. He knew that every moment spent in hesitation could mean the difference between life and death for millions. There was no more time for questions, no more time for doubt. He had a mission now. The future of his world rested on his shoulders. You have to act now, the alien girl said, her voice soft but urgent. There are people on your world who are still blind to the coming danger. You must find them, those who are willing to fight. The ones who will help you change the course of history. Her words struck him like a jolt of electricity. He had to unite the people, rally them against an enemy they didn't even know existed. It sounded impossible, but the alien girl's calm demeanor, her unshakable confidence, made him believe. She believed in him, and for some reason, he could feel that belief inside himself. John's mind raced as he thought of the people he could turn to. Scientists, military leaders, anyone who had the knowledge and the power to fight back. The task seemed insurmountable, but he couldn't afford to fail. Humanity couldn't afford to fail. What do we do first? He asked, his voice steady. Now. The alien girl smiled, the light from her eyes flickering as if she were pleased with his resolve. You need to return to your world. There, you will find your first ally, a man named Dr. Samuel Cray. He is a scientist, like you, and he has been researching the alien technology for years. He knows more than he lets on. Find him. He will help you. John nodded, his heart pounding in his chest. He had to return home, to Earth, to the life he had known, a life that now seemed so far removed from the reality he was facing. But it was a life he had to fight for. Where do I find him? John asked, his voice tinged with urgency. The alien girl's eyes glowed brighter, and she raised her hand, her fingers shimmering with ethereal energy. I will guide you, she said. But once you leave this place, the world will change. Things will never be the same. John looked at her, a mixture of awe and fear filling him. What will happen when I go back? Will I remember this? Will I remember you? The alien girl's expression softened, and she placed her hand on his chest, just above his heart. You will remember everything, she whispered, but only when the time is right, when you need to. John didn't fully understand, but it didn't matter. There was something about her, about the way she spoke, about the way she carried herself, that made him believe. She was a part of him now. Her purpose, her mission, had become his. The sky overhead flickered with distant bursts of energy, like lightning in a far-off storm. The air around them seemed to hum, vibrating with the unspoken tension of an impending conflict. John could feel it deep in his bones. The Zal'kar were coming. But so was humanity's fight for survival. As the alien girl stepped back, her form began to fade, her glowing figure slowly dissolving into the bright landscape. She was leaving, But she wasn't gone. Not really. "You know what you must do," she said, her voice lingering in the air like a fading melody. "The choice is yours, John, and you will not be alone." With those final words, she vanished completely, leaving John standing alone in the vast alien forest. The stillness was overwhelming, but he knew one thing. He had a purpose now. He wasn't just a spectator anymore. He was a part of something larger. A part of a story that stretched across the stars, where the fate of humanity depended on his next move. He turned toward the horizon, where the alien sky shimmered with strange colors. The portal to Earth was waiting for him, and he knew that the journey ahead would be unlike anything he had ever faced. But he was ready. John stepped forward, the path ahead uncertain but his resolve firm. He was ready to fight, to gather the allies he needed, and to face the enemy that had come from the stars. As he walked toward the unknown, the wind stirred around him, carrying with it the faintest whisper of the alien girl's voice. "The war begins now,"